Welcome to Transcendental Waves. I am Michael Burrows.
And I am Jeff Bailey. And the other day I was, just scrolling the internet, looking on Facebook for a second, and I saw somebody post something that kind of made me think. They were talking about how when they're late to church, they can see everybody turns and looks at them with disappointment, like they don't have their life together. But when they went to AA meetings and showed up late to those, that the look they got, the whole meeting would stop and pause, and everybody would wait for them to come in, and they were just happy that this person made it there because they knew that, like, they desperately needed this group to survive. And I just think that, like, it made me think about the way we societally treat addiction. And I mean, I just I think that we've had like this misunderstanding of like what addiction is. Like we treat people like they made this choice, like they want to be an addict, and then also like the I mean, AA has been a good thing, but I don't think that it is the answer when it says that like basically you have to give up your power to a religious source in order to get clean from these drugs. I think that we talk about looking to higher power and stuff like that, and it's just that's another thing that like where we get confused. We talk about that all the time, but addiction really is something that like is beyond just like substance abuse. I mean, what we talk about like addiction to comfort on here, like basically everyone in society is addicted to something in one way or another. We're all creatures of comfort basically. We need our little things to be comfortable, and once you see that, you kind of see that like addictions come from something way deeper than just like a substance abuse.
Oh, yeah. Addictions come from usually emotional or some kind of traumas. And habits,
Yeah.
accidental habits sometimes. Um, as a Mason, the goal of Masonry is to teach people to subdue their passions, to let go of desires, kind of. It's almost a very Buddhist philosophy. But, that's almost like prevention of addictions, because the only thing that's what an addiction is being addicted to some kind of passion or external stimulus or some kind of behavior. And so to try to get as rid of as many of those as possible is almost like something I do on the daily or yearly. It's almost just like many self improvements, trimming that tree of self growth. Just keep going, and because sometimes we do get in those habits of doing things even unintentionally. And I've read books on just how to keep our minds fresh and like keep our brains rewiring and you doing that neuroplasticity just to help not only break free of my addictions in the past, but to make sure that that stuff does not happen again. Because the last thing I want is to be addicted by something or controlled by something or someone.
Right. It's I think about like Gabor Mate says about like what our human needs is and what he says about addiction as far as like beyond our physiological needs, food and water, we have attachment needs and authenticity needs. And basically our attachment needs are like a we need to be able to form healthy attachment relationships with people and things around us. But we also, the authenticity need, have to be true to ourselves. And usually, during kids, we have these traumatic events where we're struggling to be our authentic self and be the self that these other people need us to be because we want to survive in this world. And like you said, I think we have a lot of our addictions come from subconscious things that it's like it's an accident, like an accidental habit that we've created over since we were little kids doing this. We're filling a hole in our to be to distract ourselves from a trauma.
Right. Sometimes the trauma gets us so entangled that we are digging it deeper ourselves, not even knowing it. Is that what you're kind of saying?
We're feeding the
We're
trauma
feeding it.
instead of
Yeah,
healing it.
absolutely.
And I mean, a lot of times that's the case when we get to these like by the time we see the symptoms of these things and we notice that people have these addiction problems. If it's something where we talk about people being overweight or like porn addictions. There's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of like addictions out there where I mean it's just like yeah, you're digging a hole in your brain to create justifying reasons to make these okay, and really it's
Dude, I used to have a porn addiction
Oh, yeah.
or a sex addiction. Yeah, I'm almost the same thing. And when I was going to this I went to counseling for it and stuff. And the therapist was like, Michael, you're still having sex. It's just with yourself. So porn addiction is a sex addiction, and it's not just all the other women that you have sex with to feel valued because you lack that self-worth. But when you do it, then you're releasing every time you have that orgasm, your brain's releasing all these feel-good chemicals, more than any other time in your life. So that's like one, it's because of that other emotional aspect that I had that hole that wasn't filled or healed from. But two, it was then that addiction to those chemicals that are released. So once you've realized those two things, then you can get a game plan to attack that shit. And then it's like bam, bam, bam. And then you're like, okay, now I understand it. Okay, science and psychology, I can fix this shit. I can heal it. Now it's not an issue anymore. But
it's like it's trying to find a healthier way to express the root emotion that led you down that to seek those things in the first place. I mean, we like I think that we're also taught to just like repress these things and these things are evil, so we never find healthy ways to like let that emotion out.
because we're scared to even bring it up.
Right. I mean, the whole like porn addiction, and I mean, I smoked cigarettes for years, and it was just like it was one of those things where I had to just admit to myself that I was okay with killing myself. And to be honest, there was a point in my life where I had even come to that conclusion that like, yes, cigarettes are slowly killing me, and who cares? And I like
Right. A lot
that
of
was
people are
like,
at that stage.
and that was like a. Then once I realized that, I was like, ugh, that's a very yucky way to feel about myself.
What's making me feel that way, right?
What makes me okay with thinking it's okay to just like slowly poison myself, and then that's like filtered into my food, my exercise. Try to meditate daily. Like and there's just like those different things that you use to like use self improvement. I mean, are amazing, but then it's just like I look at the way like I mean with just addiction in general, we've kind of like I mean we have the rehab facilities, the AA programs, but for the most part, like we continue to like traumatize and send these people aside because I mean the things they do are illegal, so it's like they feel like they have to hide in fear of punishment. It's just like most people that have these addictions and yeah, like feel like they can't. There's nowhere to help them. Everywhere they go is judgment and punishment, and it's just like instead of helping people heal the core of these things, a lot of times, I mean, we give them like anxiety medicine or like different things to just
It's funny, they're addicted to drugs, is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then we're thinking we're going to give them more drugs to cure their drugs, So but it's just a different kind of drug, Now, there are
Replacement
some
drugs.
centers out there, there are some good centers out there. There are some people that are going, but you're right. It's so hard to break free from that addiction. And now, I mean, addiction is such an easy word now. Like, like just say a sex addiction or porn addiction. Dude, what dude doesn't look at porn these days? I mean, if you say I'm addicted to porn to your bro, he's gonna be like, "What do you mean? I look at porn every day." Or, dude, we're not addicted. That's just what being a man's about. I mean, that's what most men think these days. And like, I didn't realize how bad that was until like just doing some self reflection. Like, holy shit, that's right. That is terrible. That's stupid.
Well, I think like once you start to look around and realize that like you are your environment, and when you're putting like you said, a lot of like the porn especially makes it like it made it to where I did not value myself physically or sexually for a long time, and I had to like put that stuff down in order to realize that like for me, sex was a more spiritual thing, and it is not meant to just be like this animalistic, degrading thing. And I don't know, man. Like that was a big one for me. But I mean, addiction in general, like we were talking earlier, it's like these traumas. Like so, like we're forced to repress all of our sexual feelings and urges as we're going through these hormonal changes, and it's like this evil thing so we're not allowed to talk about it, and then we're just like we're forced to figure that stuff out on our own. And it's the same thing where, like, I mean, I believe, you know, like you said, that's not one that people are cast aside for. But like, you know, with drug addictions, with like meth, heroin, like these people are trying to escape some sort of childhood trauma that at this point they might not even know what it is. And instead of us helping them heal them, we take them away from the physiological addiction. We can get them off the like physical, you know, like need for the drug. We take them and put them in these rehab facilities for a couple weeks, but then we put them back into the world that caused them to have these feelings and emotions in the first place. And it's like we, even with the way we treat therapy, like we don't help people cure their addiction.
You
Like,
know, I want to see statistics. We should look this up. What percentage of addictions are stemmed from childhood traumas or from societal and cultural traumas? Imagine if, like, society is just so mean to you, and let's just say you fall into any one of these demographics where maybe society kicks the shit out of you. Let's just say you're poor, okay? And then you fall into, you try a drug. And this particular drug, like let's say meth or whatever, coke, or I don't know, makes you feel like you're one of the world's best people in the world. Like, man, God really loves you. Like you're a good human again. Oh man, that's cool. And then you get addicted to this chemical. And then imagine going to a treatment center and then getting fixed or cured, but then going right back into that same mess, that's what, so some of these people, it's just a cycle because they're in that loop. Like they don't know how to change, I guess, their environment, or it's just society is
well, they think
sick.
it's just the drug. Like that's the thing is like they think if I could just get away from meth, X, whatever it is, for this long, my body won't need it anymore, and I'll be able to just be a normal person again. But the fact of the matter is, and this is another reason why, like the myth of normal, Gabor Mate, another like that book is amazing. It's just like there is no, you were never normal in the first place. You've been carrying these traumas and trying to fix it with whatever it was, and then you found something that also has the potentiality to like just take a hold of your body and become physically addicting. Now, like the fact of the matter is that a lot of these like I mean opioids, meth and all that like are very physically addicting and have a very high like, withdrawal
alcohol.
symptoms. And alcohol is a bad one too. Super withdrawal symptoms. And it's just I mean these people are filling a hole and I mean just by taking like we have to look at society and what is causing this to be such like why is this such a big problem in our society?
Why do
is
so many people have so many holes, and why are they filling those holes with chemicals that are bad and addictive, right?
Yeah, that are killing our people. I mean, with the opioid epidemic in America right now is crazy, and it's just like, I mean, and this is another one too, where it's like, yeah, not all people are coming from the childhood trauma because, I mean, the opioid epidemic for the first, decade it was being started, it was being pushed a lot by the
It was
pharmaceutical.
marketed, right.
Yeah,
And
like I mean,
alcohol's not,
alcohol's no different.
it's marketed recreationally, and it could go down very fast.
Well, and that's another thing that where it's just like, marijuana gets a really bad rep for being a gateway drug, but we're presented with alcohol as like a fun alternative, and it is one of the most like I mean, it will lead you into depression faster than just about any other substance that we allow people to have on the market, and we just there's commercials for it everywhere on everything, and that depression is one of the main reasons people seek other things to fill that hole. Like, I mean, so if alcohol causes depression, and some people just drink to black that out eventually, and they never need another drug. They just drink themselves to oblivion. I would say most people in rehab in this country are there for alcohol. That's another
Probably.
thing I'd have to look up, but I mean, just because it's peddled to us and promoted to us, like
Just like candy, it's like adult candy.
it really is, and if you ever watch, especially with a lot of the like chemicals and dyes that are in some candies, you give some of those candies to children, you will see the difference. If they don't have it on a regular basis, you'll see the difference.
Yep. And I tell you, thank goodness that I've read some books, like How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. Have you ever read that?
I didn't know the author, but I feel like
And
I've seen that one.
The Myth of Normal. These books by medical doctors that understand the use of psychedelics to help addictions, and then the doctors that are doing the current research. Like you hear about, back in the 70s, they were doing research on psychedelics. No, they're still doing it now. They're doing more research now on psychedelics than ever. Like it is fixing to be mainstream ever. Like there are states now that have authorized medical psychedelics. People don't even know, and like they're still calling these drugs. We're in a state, Jeff, where they're still calling marijuana a drug, when most states and countries prescribe it on a medical basis to help people get away from so many things like addictions and depression and anxiety and just existential issues that we have for our emotions, I guess.
Well, I mean,
And then someone uses these plant medicines that the earth gives us, and then other humans are out there, condemning you. Like in my state, a judge called me a drug abuser because I use marijuana. If I was in most other states in this country, he wouldn't have the authority to say that. Uh, and there's no like justification in it. It's just his own opinion, but because of his position, he gets to wave his wand imperially, against anybody. Now I know I'm not a drug abuser, but there's not a lot of people out there that have the self confidence in self worth and self knowledge that I have. And they like, damn, I don't want to be a drug abuser. I ain't gonna do that shit.
well, we've talked about how like the word drug is a funny word because of like the DARE program and how a lot of what we would call plant medicines have been classified as drugs. But I think with like the the myth of normal and even with like the Dr. Joe Dispenzas, people talking about like deep meditation, changing epigenetics and stuff like that, like where we're gonna see, like I mean, psychedelics really have a big part in addiction recovery and a lot of like in just the therapy realm in general. Anywhere where somebody would be going to a therapy session and wanting help for something, like I think that with the use of psychedelics, I mean, there's been people that say like one psychedelic trip is like 1,000 hours of therapy or whatever, and it's just like I personally do agree with that. Like I think that it's the best therapy you could do just because it it forces you to confront your emotions, like, and I mean all of them, good, bad. And if you're once you've like realized that, like, by being able to sit in your emotions and see where your pain comes from, you can move on better into the future, the rest of your life, by knowing where your triggers are and knowing how to control them and knowing getting better at how to control them anyways.
Right. Have you ever seen like that Inside Out movie? Where the emotions are inside the little kid. It's almost like when you do psychedelics, you get to go in and meet those emotions, and you get to spend time with them, and you get to learn them and befriend them, and then you get along with them better for the rest of your life. They are scientific studies everywhere that show that psychedelics change your rewiring of the brain. Neuroplasticity. Like, y'all, people older than us, Jeff, didn't even know that you could change your brain when you were our age. They thought your brain just stopped growing and forming, and like it was just done. Like,
I think for the longest time that was what was believed to be true. That I think in our mid 20s, maybe even like 30, that our brain just like slowly starts to decline. But like even psychedelics are kind of an easy way that anyone can do it. But I mean, there are people out there like Dr. Joe Dispenza and others that are, I mean, with like breathing and meditation and like a lot of these different exercises that you can rewire your DNA, rewire your brain to think differently, become who you want to be.
another thing that psychedelic therapy here. Okay, y'all, psychedelic therapy can be as easy as doing it 1, 2, or 3 times. Because once you enter that state, now you've got a benchmark of where you want to get to. Before, if you've never done psychedelics, it's hard to imagine what they could do for you. But if sometimes you don't even know how good life could be until it is good for a second, and then you're like, whoa, okay, now I know what I can get to because I lived it. It's almost like a dream. It's like you're like, oh, this is cool. Now I can imagine it. Now I can build a goal to get there, and you can do your therapy to get there. But if you don't do that, it's almost like you're just kind of imagining the same old world that you know, the same old headspace, the same old mind fuck, and trying to establish like building a new house with all that same old material.
Yep, and I like the way you said, like, it's a new perspective or whatever, because you once your current perspective is taken down, it lets you just see, not only just see what you could be, but you get to feel it, you get to taste, you get the whole experience of what every possible outcome could be, really, and you get to choose it. And it is one of those things where it's like, I mean, it could just be a couple times, and it like you learn these core things that it's like the divine truths or whatever. They don't have like the gateless gate. There's no words to describe these lessons you're learning, but it's just like an innate feeling of truth and like
Right.
righteousness.
And then you can get it with meditation,
Yep.
Then you can get it with that breath work. It's not like pharmaceuticals where like if you use psychedelics for your therapy, man, every time you go to therapy, you got to eat a psychedelic, or every day you got to pop a little psychedelic, and you ain't gonna live your life normal again. It's not like that.
No, it's actually should help you take way less medicine in your life. Like instead of having to take that daily Prozac or daily, whatever it is to like keep yourself from feeling like you're gonna kill yourself. Like that, it is just like a factory reset almost. But you get to keep,
These things have been used for we know at least tens of thousands of years, if
in time memorial,
hundreds,
since before we know it.
Since humans have been on this planet, we've been using psychedelics. It is written on every single thing of every historical thing that any caveman or temple has ever written and etched in stone or concrete has said that. And it's not out there killing people. Like, if you go research, there's not deaths for psychedelics. So what they do is they try to scare you, saying it's going to make you, it's going to change your life forever. You're never going to think the same way again. Yeah, it's true, man.
That is true. And why would you want to keep thinking the way you do if it's been so bad so far?
Yes, your life will change for the better, and you will think in a more positive way. Well, in a different way. Again, with the help of therapists. I would never suggest using psychedelics without a therapist. I would never suggest doing that. Me and Jeff, we don't even condone you guys to go do psychedelics at all. Hell no. You should never
Yep.
do that shit. That's drugs.
We can't condone anything illegal, and we would not tell you to do it. This is all just based on research. I mean, you can go look up the Johns Hopkins studies that say about neuroplasticity. These studies are out there. These are just things that we think that everyone should know.
Yeah, and the country, the world, it's all coming together. Thank God there's the internet now and all these knowledgeable informations that we can just pick and choose so easy. Just search and we can find all this information. Used to you have to travel to a library in, Alexandria, Egypt to find this information, but not anymore.
It just makes you curious if, we've talked about America being one of the most depressed countries in the world. We have a terrible addiction problem in our country right now. There's all kinds of things going on, and there seems to be different ways we could be trying to fix the problem, and they're just being pushed under the table because they don't make certain people money. And that to me, I'm not claiming that I'm correct or that we know the right answers, but it just doesn't feel like everyone's getting a fair chance at the table.
Every generation, younger people are seeing that the people that are controlling us are doing it for nefarious purposes, and they're taking our money and our control and our power. And so every generation, a few more people wake up. And so they're doing it eventually we're gonna hit that breaking point. But so many people are finally realizing that, and me and Jeff are just happy to be on this wave of information and like sharing the light with you guys.
We're watching people break free from the chains of addiction for, from everything. Like, and it's one of the most beautiful things in the world, and we're just trying to share a little bit of that with you guys.
You guys have the potential. Anything you're addicted to, you can overcome it. I'm telling you, you can overcome it. You don't need our help. You don't need Jesus' help. You don't need any outside source except your own inner power. And we can help you find that if you've lost it.
Yeah, guys, the journey is within.
It sure is. All right. We love you.
Like, comment, subscribe. We'll
Hap-
talk to you next time.
Happy New Year.